My name is Kelly Bjorndalen, and I've got a game I want to show you. This game's called 369 Role-Playing System. It's a game I made. I've been working on it since 2012. I just want to show you guys a little bit about it. I'm pretty much finished this game. I'm kind of working on the last chapter here, getting some illustrations ready for the game itself. But I just want to kind of start drumming up some interest, showing you guys how to play it, what the character sheets are going to look like, what everything's going to kind of look like in play, so you guys got a good idea of how it works when it comes out. In the meantime, I'm going to show you guys, how to make some character sheets, how to basically get your game started. Here's my little book, 369 Role-Playing System. Yeah, made that logo myself. Let me show you guys a little bit about it. Alright, so just before we get started making our characters, I'm going to tell you guys about 3 unique components of my game. So I have a world crafting system, a narrating system, and a dynamic social item system. So all 3 of these systems are going to kind of work together to create a pretty unique role-playing experience. So the world crafting system allows all the players at the table to kind of take part in crafting the world that you're living in. So of course this is going to be high fantasy in most cases. You're going to be creating the whole world where your characters' stories are taking place. The narrating system works fairly similarly to other Game Master and Dungeon Master systems from other games. You're going to be kind of taking part in taking charge of the world. But you're going to be doing this more at the table compared to other games where you're going to be doing essentially homework. This game is going to have you situated at the table, rolling dice like a player because you are a player. And the third component is the dynamic social item system. So coupled with the social combat system, you're going to be using this to role-play your characters and look at the world with a role-player's eyes, looking at the items around you as maybe items that give you a hand in social situations. So you can use that to social combat with other players, the villagers, other monsters, and all sorts of things like that. So those 3 components are going to be heavy in the game system itself, so you guys are going to get a really good look at how they work. And we're going to start making some characters and all the other stuff that we need to start playing the game here, so yeah. Alright, so this is our character sheet for 369. You can see it's got our nice little logo there. And just before we get started making our character, I'm going to show you guys basically the essentials of how to play the game here. So you can see here there's like a bunch of little dots. You'll kind of get more info on them in a bit, but mostly what these dots are dice. So they represent one little 6-sided die, so the game pretty much relies on 6-sided die like this. And you're going to be rolling sets of dice. So you're going to be rolling like sets of 2 or 3 or maybe 4 dice all together. So I'm rolling, and what I'm looking for are 5s and 6s. There's a 5. Okay, so 5 is a good dice, or a good number to get. And 6s are even better, because most of the time, if you roll a 6, you get to roll it again. And if you roll a 6, it counts as 1 point. And if you roll a 5 or a 6 after that, it counts as another point. And if you roll a 6 again, you get to keep rolling it. So just keep on rolling. So that's basically it there. Sometimes your dice sets get reduced, so I may start with 4, but somebody may say, well, I get up 2 to my defense or something like that. So you're going to take 2 dice out and roll your set and hope for the best. Sometimes your sets are going to be reduced to 0. So I may start with 4 dice and they say the penalty is 5. Well, geez, I don't have any dice at all. I can still roll 1 die, but only a 6 counts, and I don't get to re-roll my 6s. So here we go. Oh, I didn't get it. Well, and sometimes you may not get to make a roll at all. Let's say my dice set is 4, and my penalty is 12. Well, that's 3 times my dice set to begin with, so that makes my roll hopeless. Doesn't even matter if I roll a 0. So that's basically how rolling dice works in the game. So yeah, I'm going to show you guys kind of how to fill out this character sheet. You can see it's pretty much filled out. That's just to save time, but I'll show you guys what everything needs here. Alright, so starting with our character here, we have our abilities, and our abilities are made up by the 3 Fs, our Force, Finesse, and Fortitude. You can see that each one has an array of possible 6 points, and you get the first one filled in automatically, and when you start a character creation, you get to fill in 1 point or 3 points. None of these can go above 3 until you've kind of leveled up your character, so you're kind of stuck on the first little array here. And I'll kind of explain what each of these means. So your force is your character's ability to create or destroy. So if you want to be a spellcaster or a fighter or a character that just kind of generates a lot of direct and immediate change in the world, force is the way to go. Finesse is your ability to grow, morph, or move, or kind of get out of the way of certain things. So it's your character's fluidity, your ability to kind of roll with the punches. And Fortitude is your character's ability to remain the same. So your stasis, your ability to kind of remain strong or steadfast in the face of like adversity. So yeah, the 3 Fs, and that's kind of going to be the base of any dice set that you roll. So if you roll a dice set, you're going to start with one of these 3 things, and you're going to justify it based on kind of their descriptions. So Force, Finesse, and Fortitude, kind of how they function in the game. Yeah, there you go. Alright, so the next part of the character sheet is our attributes, which is kind of this big L to the side and top of the character sheet here. So we're going to start on the top left. Woo! And I want to keep our abilities in here because they're kind of derivative. So we're going to start with our size, which is by default 3. Our speed, which is equal to our size plus the lower of our force or finesse, so they're both 2, so that'll be 5. Our initiative, which is equal to the higher of force or finesse, so they're both 2, which is 2. And our light radius, which is the lower of force or fortitude, both 2, so 2. Alright, and then we're going to move across the board here to our defense arrays. So we have our mental defense, which is equal to our force, which is 2, and our will, which is equal to force plus fortitude. So there we go, we've got 4. Physical defense, which is equal to our finesse, which is 2, and our health, which is equal to our size plus our fortitude. So size is 3, fortitude 2, 5. And then we got our social defense, which is equal to our fortitude 2, ego, which is equal to fortitude plus finesse 4. Alright, so kind of moving across here, I got my player information. My name is Kelly. My character's name is Coley. Character concept, I usually leave this blank, but this is basically going to be how your character replenishes will in the game. So if you fulfill your character concept, you get will. We have some example ones, but if you want to make your own, you're highly encouraged to do that kind of thing. The next thing is your legacy. So this is kind of like your character's level. When you're playing the game, you're going to spend experience to get your legacy, and this is going to give you special abilities, make it easier to gain experience. And basically, it's your character's symbolic ability to draw in fate around you. So it's pretty good for a hero to do, to be able to draw in fate, especially cool things attached to that kind of stuff. And next to that, we've got our sanity meter. I think I might change this to stress or something like that when I release the game. It's also attached to a malady, so if you go too low on your sanity meter, you may be subject to maladies that make it harder for your character to act in social situations. So, but you also get a high bonus, or a bonus for having a high sanity, so keep that in mind. And this is pretty much a good way to keep your character kind of engaged in the social realm of the game. You don't want your character to dip too low, and the best way to deal with that is to, do social stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much all the attributes, and we'll move on to talents. Yeah, so just below our attributes here, you can see our 3 different talent trees. So we have our mental talents, physical talents, and social talents. And when you're making your character, you get to apply 15 points to your talents, and once again, none of them can be above 3. So you can see here, I just like to put a lot of 1s in. I like a character that's kind of able to do a little bit of everything right off the bat, because I never know what the game's going to be like. So I just want to branch into whatever I want. Yeah. You can see I have some negatives here to some of my talents, but that's due to armor, and I can kind of explain that when we get to the equipment portion. So pretty self-explanatory. Your mental talents are going to be used to craft items or cast spells or see things. Yeah, so you're going to be rolling your points here when you're doing that kind of thing. Physical talents are going to be used in dungeons mostly, so when you're fighting monsters and exploring. And social talents are going to be used in the village when you're engaged in social situations with the villagers or other characters to kind of progress the story or get equipment and stuff like that. Right below this, you can see our little experience box. That'll probably be more prevalent when we play, but you can just record your experience there. Alright, so just below our abilities and attributes here, we have our traits. So this is kind of our character's special abilities. It allows us to kind of bend the rules of the game or give us bonuses that'll help us play. So you can purchase traits with experience, and yeah, when you start, you get 9 points to spend. And on the bottom, you can see that we have our resources trait. We get 1 resources point automatically filled in, just like with our force, finesse, and fortitude. And this is probably one of the most important traits for your character to have. For character creation, it determines how many items you start with. And when you're playing the game, it determines how many items your character can use in social combat, in dungeons, and when moving across the world map. So it's a pretty important trait. Up here we have some of our special ability traits. You can see I wrote a bunch in and then filled in the points. So I have Stubborn, which actually gives us a bonus point to our ego that I can fill in. Swashbuckler, which is a combat trait. This will come into play when I start fighting things with my character. Robust, which actually gives me a bonus point to my health. And Aware, which gives me a bonus point to my light radius. So I can go back and kind of fill those in on my character sheet before we start playing. Alright, so along the bottom here we have our equipment. This is going to be used to keep track of our equipment. Haha, la-di-da. We have a special little portion here for our armor. This will kind of help you keep track of how much armor you have and what you can kind of take damage from without getting hurt. So we'll start just below that with our equipment, and then we'll kind of move up and fill in the rest of our character sheet. And then we'll move on to our common sets, and that'll be it. That'll be our whole character. So here we go, getting close to the end. It doesn't take very long to make a character in this game. This is probably going to be the most difficult part. So when you're doing your traits, ask your players, okay, what items do you want? Get them to list about 5 or 6 items, and then get them to do the rest of their traits with whatever points they have left over. So I filled in 6 points in my resources. That means I get 6 items. And you can see here, I've got 6 items. So I chose a sword, a buckler, a backpack, an arming cap, a padded tunic, and leather gloves. So the top 3 items are kind of weapons, as well as like a backpack for carrying loot. And then my bottom 3 items are armor. So my sword here, it has W in brackets. So your items are going to have a context in brackets next to them, and that's basically going to tell you under what context you get to use the item's feature. So W in this case indicates wounding, so it does wounding type damage. It cuts characters, but as we see here, it doesn't have any features, so we're not going to really worry about that in terms of what it gives me access to. It just does wounding type damage when we attack our enemies. So right here we can see it's equipped versus carried. So that means that our character has it directly equipped to their person. It's not inside a backpack or inside some other kind of holding device, which would be indicated if I put filled in the C. So we have each item has 3 traits. It has an attack rating, a durability rating, and a feature. Our attack rating is what we roll or what we add to our dice set. So when we're rolling a dice set, we're going to use our ability plus a talent and plus the attack rating of our item. So that'll usually give us a dice set of, I don't know, like 3 to 6 or 9 maybe sometimes. Oh, that's interesting. Anyways, durability. Built into every item in the game is kind of an entropic level. I like that sometimes weapons break or items break and you just gotta recycle things. That's just how things work. So some items will last a lot longer than others, and some items will break. So when items are under threat of breaking, you're going to roll their durability, and if you fail to come up with any 5s or 6s, the item just breaks. So there you go. Features are kind of like your item's traits. It allows them to kind of bend the rules of the game or gives them special abilities. So right under our sword, we can see we have an item with a feature 1 defense. So when we're in combat, that's going to give us 1 bonus physical defense as long as we're using this item. Our backpack, we can see here, has 2 resources, so that's going to allow us to carry other items. So when we're in dungeons and we see some loot, we can toss it into our bag and run along in our merry way. Our character also has some armor, so this is used to mitigate damage when we're fighting. We don't always have to wear armor, but when we're in dungeons, it's a good idea. So my arming cap has a context next to it, which is B with a slash through it, so that indicates that it's meant to get rid of bludgeoning armor, and it covers my head, so that indicates where I get my bonus to armor. It's equipped, of course, and I have attack rating of 1. So when I'm hit by an attack, I can roll my armor's attack rating, which is 1, and if I roll a 5 or a 6, it's going to soak whatever damage was dealt out to me. So I have a durability rating. If my armor soaks a bunch of damage, but there's just so much damage left that it, I just take damage anyway, I have to roll a durability rating for my armor, and if I fail, it breaks. And of course, my feature rating is where I get my soak from, so each point I put into my feature automatically soaks 1 damage every time if I succeed on my armor check. And it can also have its own features. So we can see here that my arming cap has a feature of weaved, which allows me to soak wounding damage, even though it is a bludgeoning armor. But I would have to roll a 6 to do that. So knowing what the features do are found in the items section of the 369 rulebook. There's a lot of features for items, but they're pretty easy to learn and a lot of fun to kind of figure out that system. All right, so this is my common sets section here. So this is going to be if I find myself rolling a lot of sets, so like the same set over and over again, I'm going to tally the total up so I don't have to constantly look at it, and put it right there. So, makes it a lot easier to play the game. I can use any kind of set and throw it here. It can be like a combat set, it can be a social set, it can be a crafting set. So anything I want can go right there. Basically just makes the game go a little bit quicker. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole character sheet. Zoom out, we'll have a look at our complete character sheet there. And yeah, that's once you have that filled out, you're pretty much ready to go as a player. So I know a lot of you guys are going to be on that side of the table. You may as well really enjoy yourselves playing as a character. This is a fairly unique system. You're going to find yourself doing things in this game that a lot of other role-playing games don't really have the ability to do. So yeah, check it out. We're going to move on and kind of make some narrators and make some monsters, and then we're going to get started.